Welcome back to Jedi Enclave. I am Daniel.
I'm Chris.
And this is the Jedi Enclave Presents. Now, this is Podcasting Podcast, our weekly podcast that is both important and mysterious work, just like on the MDR department in Severance. Sorry, Severance has been in my brain a little bit since this season.
Really?
Yeah.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, you have no idea. And it's so we have... There are like a lot of shows we're paying attention to right now. And like today, we have so much to talk about. Yeah. And that's why we're kind of starting early, which, by the way, I need to remember at like 50 minutes, we need to, you know, we have to reset stuff.
Take a breather. Yeah.
But it'll only be for a couple minutes. But yeah, this is our weekly podcast about Star Wars, except for today, we're not talking about Star Wars at all, I don't think.
Because there's too much other shit happening, and there's no Star Wars happening. Yeah. So,
but I do expect we'll have some Andor season 2. Oh, I guess the one Star Wars thing, they did release those really cool pieces of art.
Oh yeah,
for Star Wars Celebration, which is happening in Japan. Yeah, and they're like traditional Japanese. You know, everyone's a samurai and has a cool lightsaber. Like, it's really fucking cool. Yeah. I posted a couple of them on our Facebook page, which, by the way, on Facebook, just yesterday, we passed 20,000 followers.
A momentous occasion.
Yes, which I understand compared to other content creators isn't a ton. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, first of all, we don't pay for followers or subscribers like Star Wars Theory or in those guys.
We also put significantly less effort into this.
So much less effort. And I think when we first were like, you know, it'd be fun as a Star Wars podcast, we'd be like, I was like 100 followers. Yeah. That'll be it. And you know what? It's more so we can hang out and have fun and talk about shit. Yeah. So the fact that we have 20,000
people who give enough of a shit to click the little follow or whatever button.
Yeah. Which, by the way, I get it. Most of you here for the memes. And I don't blame you for that. I'm there mostly for the memes as well. But, you know, there are a few of those people who watch the podcast and interact with us when we do our gaming streams. And 20,000 for us is a huge number. And we are at least I'm very grateful. Chris, I don't know how Chris is about it. I never talked to you about it. True. I told you it was coming up.
Yeah.
But then I didn't know what we should do to celebrate other than just to say thank you. If you're one of the 20,000 people following us on Facebook, we appreciate it. It means a lot to us. So so thanks. And if you're not following us on Facebook, you can go do that.
What are you doing with your life?
Follow us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Discord. And if you don't know where any of those things are, the links are in the description. And today, on the long list of things we must talk about, and that we are excited to talk about, Captain America: Brave New World, which you and I just saw just a couple of hours ago. Severance Season 2, Episode 5, which was another banger. Invincible Season 3, Episode 4, which is also a lot of fun. Yep. And Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, Episode 6 through 8, because for some reason they're
putting out 3 a week.
Yeah, which is fine because they're like pretty short. They're pretty short episodes.
I still kind of wish they wouldn't. I wish they'd put out like one or two.
Yeah.
Because like I'm busy. I got
there's a lot of shit to watch. Yeah. So on the flip side of that, Spider-Man isn't spinning as much of a mystery as all the other shit.
That's true.
Except for Captain
America.
It is
way more straightforward.
Yeah. So and like it's a little easier to follow and everything. But it's also another show I've been really kind of enjoying. Mm-hmm. After this, we'll be playing Battlefront 2 with a couple of the guys from Gremlin Squad. So come check us out for that. And we're just going to get started on this. And if we get done earlier than I expected, then great. If not, then we'll know that I say.
When have we ever gotten done earlier than you expected?
That's why we started early. By the way, this is a live show. I will be checking the chat every once in a while. So if you want to say hi and let us know what you thought of either Captain America: Brave New World, if you've seen it, Severance, this week's episode of Severance, or Invincible, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. We'd love to hear your opinions, and in between topics, we will I'll try to read your comments, and we'll tell you whether or not we think you're an idiot for holding those opinions.
Okay, so what are we starting with?
We're doing Captain America: Brave New World.
Okay,
because I figure this is still fresh in my mind, so we're gonna do this first. and I didn't take as many notes because we were in a very dark theater. And so first of all, the one thing I was very surprised about is that there were a lot of people in our theater today watching this. And going into Captain America Brave New World, I read some critics reviews that were not great. The audience score seemed to be a lot more forgiving.
Yeah. We checked right before we went to the theater. The Rotten Tomatoes score was like 51%. The audience score, I think, was like 78 or something. And
based on what I saw today with the audience, because the little town that I live in is kind of a weird bellwether for stuff like this, where generally people don't go out to see movies in this town. And I'm not sure if it's because people don't have disposable income kind of around here or not. So when I go to a movie and there are a lot of people there, I'm like, or even like more than, 5 people.
Theater's like half full.
Right. Yeah. And it was like there were kind of a lot of people there. And I think the last time I saw that many people there was when we went to go see Wicked, which also did very well. So I'd be very interested to see if maybe locally this area just really likes Sam Captain America. Like it's a weird little microcosm, or if this movie ends up doing better at the box office than I think I expect it to.
Well, here's my counterpoint to that.
Okay.
Neither you nor I knew the release date of this movie until like Tuesday.
I know you messaged me.
I messaged you and I was like, "Hey, this movie's coming out on Friday," and you're like, "Fuck, really?"
God, okay. We'll go see it Saturday, I guess.
I don't think Disney promoted this thing at all. Which
I know.
To me was a really bad sign because it means like they don't want to throw good money after bad.
I just thought it was coming out in a couple of months.
Yeah.
Because I remember seeing the trailer with Harrison Ford and being like, oh, okay, well, we'll see it when it comes out, but whatever. So yeah, it's out. I'm going to give you some pros and cons. You give me some pros and cons, and we'll get into some spoilers. I'll pull some of the plot, and we'll talk a little bit about the plot. So my pros for this movie, performances by Carl Lumbly, who plays Isaiah, what's his name?
Bradford?
Yeah. Kind of the first Captain America, really, in the MCU. Was he after? Oh, yeah, I guess he would have been after.
He was in Korea.
Yeah.
Cap was World War II.
His performance in this movie was really good. All the scenes he's in were really great. And he had a couple of really emotional moments where I was like, you're making me actually feel some shit, which is nice.
Yeah. If you remember all the way back to Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was kind of the emotional heart of that show as well. Yeah. Like he's just a really good actor.
Yeah. And that was a weird show.
We recently watched him in Fall of the House of Usher.
Yes.
Where he was also extremely
really, really good. Yeah. Yeah. We really like that actor. Also Harrison Ford's performance. I mean, when you consider that it's just a goofy little MCU action movie and he's
just looking for more money to fix up his plane the next time he crashes it.
But he's playing, Thaddeus Ross isn't, in the MCU, at least, isn't necessarily a super interesting character. So he's just playing like generic president that turns red.
Yeah.
And within that, I've never heard that sound in my entire life. I have no idea what that is.
I don't know if that even came through on the stream.
I don't know what that is. And I hope it never happens again because it scared the fuck out of me.
Honestly, I thought like pretty much every actor did a really good job.
Yeah. They're all fine. Yeah. But Harrison Ford did there are movies where you can tell that Harrison Ford's kind of phoning it in. The Rise of Skywalker, for example. And I know that Harrison Ford's scene in The Rise of Skywalker, like that scene is a lot of people's like favorite scene of the film. But it's very clear that he was like, you've got me for 2 hours. That's it.
Let's just get this done.
And they turn the camera on and he says his lines and they're like, okay, let's do another take. No. Done. Bye.
My check's in the mail, right?
He jumps in the plane and takes off.
Probably directly from that location.
On that planet.
He flew there, read his lines, flew out.
Bye, guys. Another huge point on my list, Danny Ramirez is very hot, who plays Joaquin... Torres, yes. Who is also in Falcon and the Winter Soldier and also was very hot in that show as well. My partner, John, and I, the entire time, were like, every time he's on the stream, he's like, oh, damn. Okay, so, and there's some good, there's some good humorous beats in this movie. Like, They said the word shit more than I've heard in MCU movies, which I thought was an interesting choice.
There's a neat little cameo with Bucky.
Spoilers.
It's not that big of a spoiler.
But still spoilers. Who's, by the way, we know from the trailer for Thunderbolts is a congressman now, which makes him a former Russian assassin, brainwashed Russian assassin who has murdered people and has been fugitive of the law, got elected somewhere in the United States as a Congress in the House of Representatives.
Counterpoint, he's also a World War II veteran.
Yeah, but then he worked for Russia.
Yeah, but you know how much America loves its veterans.
Yeah, and Russia apparently.
Yeah,
in certain districts, I'm sure Bucky, like the one problem with Bucky's candidacy, they're like, why'd you ever leave?
Yeah, why'd you stop being part of the Russian intelligence?
But yeah, he kind of shows up toward the end to give a little pep talk, and there were some things with Sam that were retreading again from Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because there's this thing in Falcon and the Winter Soldier where it's like, oh, there's big shoes, why did Steve pick me, and it's the shield's too big to carry, and like metaphorically and probably also literally, because he doesn't have the superhero serum, so like he's just a normal dude.
It's just a giant disc of metal that he has to carry around,
which, by the way, in the first action sequence of this film, he drops out of a plane and breaks the sound barrier on the way down and then just lands.
Yep.
And now, if this were Captain Marvel or even Captain America or Thor,
they'd leave a crater.
Or they'd be fine. He is a normal dude who just suddenly decelerated. He would be a puddle of goo all over. I don't care what he's wearing. He'd be a puddle of goo all over the place. So let's talk about some stuff I didn't love about this.
I want to just mention the action scenes, fight scenes and stuff are generally pretty competently done.
I think as far as the MCU goes, they're more or less garden variety, but yeah, they're fine.
The special effects that they showed, because there's one point where you and I looked at each other and said they didn't have the money to do that.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But like the stuff that they did and showed was generally pretty all right. I didn't really notice anything that stuck out to me as, ooh, that's weird.
I wonder how many VFX artists died in the making of this movie, because as we know, the MCU Marvel is very good at abusing their VFX artists.
Every single Marvel movie, if you sit through the credits, like 2/3 of it is VFX people.
Yeah. All right. So I don't like to endlessly bitch about stuff. And we try to give every movie and show its fair shake, and try to at least like give credit to what the vision was and everything.
So let's just start with the one that I know you're going to mention.
Okay.
The soundtrack was kind of mid.
Yeah. Not only was it, so the music we heard was mid, but it was also overscored, which I thought was weird. And if you're not a music-y kind of person, that's fine. But generally, there are some moments in movies where there isn't music for dialogue or for some important moment. I feel like there weren't really any, and the music was just constantly playing, and it was unremarkable and kind of generic action movie trailer sounding, and I didn't love it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a hard shake from Alan Silvestri's theme for the Avengers, and I get that we're comparing to a legend like Alan Silvestri and everything, but I mean, if you're going to do an MCU movie, you got to bring your game.
Yeah, bring the A game.
So I thought the plot was a little disjointed, a little strange.
The writing in general was
the dialogue.
Not great.
I think the dialogue in general, specifically, was what, and it's you could tell that I don't think the writers trusted their audience very much, because they would over-explain stuff.
That bugged the shit out of me. There was so much that they told us and didn't show.
Right. Yeah. But you might as well have the character look straight toward the camera and be like, "You guys still with us? Like, you understand what's still happening right now?"
There's a scene in sort of the epilogue part where Sam just talks for like 90 seconds explaining all the stuff that's happened over the past few days. Right. And it's like, you couldn't have shown us any of that?
Right.
Or like had it be like an in-universe news report or something? Well, because they pulled that trick a couple times.
That's the other thing that really bothered me, is that we call it news position, which is kind of a cheap way to do expository things with your story.
Yeah.
There are good ways to do stuff like this. And granted, it takes a little more work because you have to figure out how to fold it naturally into a conversation. But or just show it, on camera with something that will stick in someone's mind. And I get, to their credit, human beings in the year 2025 are enormously stupid. And I understand that. And I get that they're like, we have to kind of play to the lowest denominator to make sure everyone, and like if there are kids watching, we want to make sure that they don't get lost in it as well. But at the same time, it was the dialogue was clunky and weird, and I didn't like it. So there's a character that was added in reshoots.
Yes,
played by Giancarlo Esposito, famously Gustavo Fring from Breaking Bad,
or Moff Gideon,
right?
Mandalorian.
He plays another bad guy, kind of generic. His performance is
has
fine.
a type. He gets to fire off some really good Spanish.
Yeah. And he's got some cool gunplay, but it's very clear that this character did not exist in the first run, like the first pass of the movie.
Because as soon as he stops being relevant about 40% of the way through the movie.
Yeah, they throw him in jail.
It's like, okay, why was he here?
Yeah. And this is so like in Captain America, Civil War, like we had Zemo, who was kind of similar. Like he was kind of a guy that was there, like kind of like making things go, but like there were other issues, like because like we had Bucky, and all that other shit.
Or like in it wasn't Civil War, it was the one with Hydra, the Captain America with Hydra.
Captain America, the one with Hydra.
The second one where he's running around, where he's a fugitive and running around
right
with the elevator fight scene.
Yeah.
Anyway,
just the Winter Soldier.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Anyway, the first 20 minutes or so of that movie are like Steve Rogers dropping onto this cargo ship in the ocean and beating up this one dude, and then you never hear from him again.
Right. Oh, the French guy, you mean? Yeah.
Batroc the Leaper.
He ends up showing back up in Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, and he's equally a bit player there.
Right, yeah.
I think he's just an in-universe joke character.
Maybe. And that's the thing is I don't want Giancarlo Esposito to be a joke character because he's a dynamite actor. He's really good. And it's like you can tell, I don't know what they had there to begin with that wasn't working or that they felt wasn't working. But they put him in jail, and then they go back for one scene to talk to him, and he really doesn't have any effect on the plot after that, and that was kind of shitty. And then there's some, if you're a fan of The West Wing, in general, there are some things that like story. For example, there's, and look, there is
so much, like a major plot point of this is that Thaddeus Ross is the president, and there's so many things that happen around him that do not make any sense at all.
It would never happen with the United States president. And I get that I'm really getting nitpicky here, but I happen to actually be a huge fan of The West Wing. And I pay attention to politics, and I've mentioned before, I have an uncle that was in the Secret Service. And I know for a fact, first of all, the president would not go to an active conflict zone on a warship and personally command the fight himself. That does not happen. That would never happen. In fact, I'm pretty sure the Secret Service would be legally compelled to remove him from that situation. Kicking and screaming.
Yes.
They put a bag over his head because they get a lot of leeway legally to keep the president safe, which includes manhandling him and like treating him like a prisoner if they have to.
Just peg him with a tranquilizer dart, drag him on a helicopter, get him out of there.
And then there's a weird scene at the end where everyone knows that Thaddeus Ross turns into Red Hulk because it was in the trailers, where the Secret Service watches him transform and then just starts shooting at him for no reason because he hasn't like hurt anyone yet.
There is a reason, and
it's a little reason.
It's a little reason, but I can see that like someone at least panicking, saying, "Holy shit, that's a Hulk! I have a gun here. I don't know what to do here, but this gun makes me feel somewhat safe, so let me use it."
I made this joke in the car on the way home, but I think if I were that Secret Service agent, I'd have been like, "Okay," and then just turn back to the crowd and be like, "I guess I'm protecting the president."
Yeah, he's the president.
It was nice at the end that a president takes responsibility for his actions and resigns and puts himself.
Honestly, that's the least realistic part of the entire movie.
Yeah, that's
including the part where the president turns into the Hulk.
Yeah. Which, Joe Rush sent 99 stars. Goddamn, dude. Thanks.
Hey.
We appreciate that. My oldest friend Joe, who, by the way, stopped into our gaming stream couple days ago, and we reminisced a little bit about Surf Club, which if you're not around enough for that, is when Chris and I and our friend Joe broke into a public pool at midnight and went for a swim, and then got caught by the cops, and we were all pretty drunk.
It was not the cops; it was the park rangers or whatever the fuck.
They weren't real cops here, but the real cops were there originally. The actual police were there originally, and then they called the park ranger.
And then the next morning, I woke up Joe, and we drove down to the park district and paid our tickets,
which was only like $65.
Yeah,
and I reason worth it. Yeah. We got $65 worth of entertainment out of that situation. Got a story out of it. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about the plot a little bit.
Okay.
So this is post Eternals, right?
Yes.
So the celestial Tiamat was gonna bloom out of the earth like a fucking daisy,
and then the Eternals said, "Nope, not happening." Yeah. And now there's this weird shaped island in the middle of the Indian Ocean.
Yeah, and so Sam goes on a little mission.
Yes,
because there's a canister. We're not going to get super deep into the details of this,
but he goes down there and beats up Giancarlo Esposito's guys because they're taking hostages and transporting this package, and Falcon, Mr. Torres, gets his moment of glory.
He's so good looking.
Yeah, he retrieves the canister while Sam frees the hostages.
Yeah, I think he's got Sam's old armor. He's just wearing like his old armor and shit.
So like, yay, mission accomplished.
Yeah. So it turns out they all get an invite to the White House. So which by the way, I think this starts off with him winning his election and giving an acceptance speech, which they said on the news was
a campaign speech. I'm pretty sure.
No, that was
no.
Yeah, and this is one of my one of my many West Wing problems with this is that the news calls it an acceptance speech. And it was not a nominating contest. It is a victory speech, which the president often makes on the night of election night, unless you are another president and you just air your grievances again about all the wrongs that have been done against you. So anyway, he wins election, and after this operation, invites Sam and Torres to the White House, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna bring our buddy Isaiah with us. Oh, he doesn't like you, by the way, and is a little anti-American government. For a good reason.
Justifiably so, for a good because he got locked up for 3 decades and had horrible, inhumane experiments done to him.
Yeah. And so they get there, they all hang out. The president wants to reform the Avengers. And Sam's like, well, remember the last... remember when you personally, and you had a different face back then, passed the Sokovia Accords and more or less ended the Avengers as we knew them. And then, by the way, we all turned around and saved half of the fucking galaxy or the universe. Remember when that happened? He's like, yeah, it was a different actor, but I remember it. And he's like, well, what happens if we disagree on...
Well, what happens the next time the Sokovia Accords come around?
Yeah, and I like, he gives a politician's answer, which is, we'll figure it out when we get there. And so at this White House visit, they do a little presentation.
Yeah, he's talking about, hey, we and the French and the Indian government and the Japanese all got together and started looking at this, eternal island or celestial islands. And it turns out there's this wacky new metal called adamantium there. And I think at that point, you and I both turned and we looked at each other like, what?
That's significant because that's the first time that adamantium has been mentioned in the MCU Marvel verse, right? Which
it's also significant because that is a huge part of Wolverine, one of the most famous X-Men.
Yeah.
Which if they're going in that direction, this is a hint of that.
Yeah, it's definitely an X-Men thing. And so during this presentation, a weird old-timey song plays on the radio, and a bunch of people start wigging out.
Yeah, Isaiah Bradley grabs a dude's security guard's gun and starts shooting at the president, and like 4 other people are going
By
crazy.
the way, like 4 NSA operatives just started listening into our podcast the second we said that. Like that like the NSA has some AI running and they picked up that key phrase and they're like, oh, we better go listen to this. Oh, they're just a bunch of nerds. Never mind.
Hey guys.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah. So they put down like a couple of generals like take shots at him, and I think like even a couple of Secret Service agents.
Yeah, and Isaiah Bradley takes off running, and Sam chases him. He's like, dude, you need to calm down and just chill and turn yourself in. And Isaiah Bradley's like, I don't know what I just did, but I really don't want to go back to prison.
Yeah.
And Sam was like,
you
trust me on this?
Yeah.
It will be way, way worse for you if you don't go to prison.
But also consider you did just shoot at the president.
Yeah.
Like I regardless of the reason or whether or not you were in control, you did that. And how are we supposed to know you won't also do that again in the future?
Yeah.
Right?
Like, look,
I feel like if I were Bradley, I'd have been like, fair point.
Yeah, fair.
Until we figure this out, fair point.
Yeah.
But however, he's got that ingrained distrust of the government and everything.
In the midst of all this, we see a woman who is Ross's security advisor.
All of his governmental roles are, so he's got this Secret Service agent that is also like his chief of staff, who like she's supposed to be. Which, by the way, Secret Service agents don't talk to the president about policy ever. They are in the room and they are there to kill people that try to hurt him, right? That's their only job. They're supposed to be apolitical, which is probably a standard that the Secret Service has done away with now. But they're not supposed to care about policy. It doesn't matter. Your only job is to protect the office and the man that sits in it. And he's got this Secret Service agent who's like, is that a good idea? Should you do this? How about you do that? And it's like, you have no idea how above your pay grade this is. But anyway, and he's right. He's got this like security advisor who is a formal Israeli Black Widow, right? Ruth Bat Saraf. Did I say that right?
I think so.
I didn't realize it was hyphenated. Bat Saraf. It's a pretty neat name, actually. And you had a problem with her arms.
They're just like really long and skinny.
Yeah.
It's weird. Anyway, so Ross is sitting in his bunker because, he was just shot at. Sam goes down there and is like, look, I need to investigate this. I can figure it out. Like, Isaiah was not in control of himself. And Ross is like, dude, are you serious right now?
Yeah.
Like, do you not understand the optics of you investigating Isaiah? Like, you need to sit this one out.
Yeah. Also, the conversation we just had about reforming the Avengers,
not happening.
I take that back. It's like, you asshole. So Sam decides, he's like, fuck yeah, I'm going to do what I want. And he goes on his own. He embarks on his own investigation.
Calls up Torres, says, hey, you got to help me look into all this shit.
Torres has his shit gathered up mid-sentence and was like, let's fucking go.
Well, this is before that because like Torres is going through on his computer looking at CCTV footage from the White House. I have no idea how he got this. Part of the CC part of that means closed circuit. So like there shouldn't be any way to get that footage if you're not physically in the White House.
If you're one of the NSA agents watching this stream right now, like way
or FBI, you know.
Weigh in and tell us how story accurate that is.
So Sam's driving around his big GMC pickup truck, which
product placement.
Yeah.
Hell
no kidding. When fucking Giancarlo Esposito shows up with an assault rifle and starts unloads it at his windshield and tosses a grenade in there, truck blows up. He goes out there to confirm the kill, and Sam starts smacking him
he
around.
celebrated real early, by the way. He's like, yeah, he's fucking dead. Stand by for proof of life. And it's like, bitch, have you never seen an MCU movie before?
Yeah. So Sam is like, okay, seriously, like, can we talk about this? And Giancarlo Esposito is like, that's really funny because the guy who hired me said there was like an 80% chance that if you survived that grenade, you were going to try to talk to me about it.
Which was a weird thing to say in the first place.
Yeah.
And I think this ends in Giancarlo Esposito getting knocked out and arrested, right?
I think he gets stabbed, actually.
Stabbed and then knocked out.
Stabbed and knocked out and arrested, yeah.
And so he's off the board. And will he be important again in the story? He will not. That's about the end of it. I think he has one more scene.
Yeah, he has one more scene where he like gives Sam some information in exchange for not being in prison.
Which, by the way, this scene, he's like, I want your information. He's like, full pardon. And Sam's like, no. And it's like, Sam, you do not have the authority to be negotiating with prisoners and offering them deals. That's not how this works. Because his next thing is like, okay, well, if I can't get a pardon, I want a real nice cushy prison I'm going to break out of and a nice bed. He's like, sold. It's like, Sam, you cannot give him things like that. That's not how the United States works.
It's not on paper, but like if Captain America comes in and says, look,
he's got,
like I had a deal with this guy. Can you not treat him like complete shit?
Yeah.
Like, are you going to say no to Captain America?
That's a fair point. I do like how in that scene, he's like, and don't try to break out. And he's like, I'm going to break out. So don't tell me that. And he's like, okay, I'll send you to that cushy prison anyway.
If you break out, I'm going to come after you. And Giancarlo Esposito is like, when I break out, I am going to kill you.
Yeah. So bye.
Yeah.
So they embark on their. So the one thing he recognizes from the CCTV footage is that
there's some flashes coming out of Isaiah's phone.
Right, because they do the gag where the old guy doesn't know how to airdrop, and it's like this has happened so much in television and film now that it's become a trope. And it's like, can we stop having a laugh at older people not knowing how to use their iPhone? Because it wasn't necessarily a funny joke when it started becoming overused in the first place. So because he was complaining about his phone was on the fritz or whatever, and they have footage of like his phone like flashing light into his eyes.
And there's other footage of one of the other gunmen's phone doing the same thing.
So somewhere along the way, they find out about this black site.
Yes.
That's like out in the middle of somewhere in Tennessee.
West Virginia, and it is a real life place with radio telescopes. It's actually really interesting that there's like a multi-mile radius around this place where you're not allowed to have any wireless signals. So like no cell phones, no Bluetooth, no Wi-Fi, because it interferes with the radio telescopes.
Well, I did not know that. That's really interesting. It's probably not radio telescopes. It probably is.
What?
Aliens.
Think about it.
Aliens.
Anyway, so they
That's
get there.
more or less what ends up happening down there. Maybe a little less aliens, but some weird shit.
So you get there. Sam is like, okay, those radio telescopes are obviously bullshit. The real stuff is underground, so we got to get in there.
Yeah.
They get down into this weird prison thing where there aren't any prisoners. They get to this like medical lab thing and start poking around, and they're like, there's some weird shit down here, like files on Isaiah Bradley, and why is there this medical information for President Ross? That's really fucking weird. And then this green looking dude with the weird brain skull shows up, and he's like, hey, so you found my lab. Congratulations. However, you're gonna have to die now. So meet my friends who I have mind controlled to kill you. And Sam was like, we're superheroes, right? You really think this is going to stop us? And he's like, well, I think it's going to delay you just long enough for me to make my getaway. So you have fun with that. Bye.
Yeah. I noticed. So he finds a folder on President Ross with a bunch of shit. And I noticed that on one of his pages, he had the element for thorium.
Yep.
It was like an isotope of thorium, which is radioactive.
Yep.
There is this thing throughout the movie where President Ross has to take a little pill.
Surreptitiously popping these little pills.
Yeah. And it, by the way, thorium atomic number is 90. Bet you didn't know that before you watched this podcast. So you're welcome.
The more you know.
Yeah. Ding. Which, by the way, is very cancerous. And if you're eating thorium pills, you're probably going to die of gallbladder cancer. But that's neither here nor there. So they fight through his goons. And
on their way, like they're heading out, the hallway suddenly fills up with more goons. And then the fucking widow lady shows up and is like, hey, they're with me actually. Y'all can stand down. And then there's another corridor fight scene.
She's like, I can do a flip.
Yeah.
So watch out.
So Sam and Torres and what's her name? Ruth, that Ruth, whatever her name is, widow lady. Compare notes.
Bat.
Yeah. And they're like, okay. So turns out that it was the green dude who's the bad guy. Maybe we should work together, try and figure this thing out.
Right. Oh, which, by the way, this was the character that was played by. What is that actor's name? He's a famous actor, Tim Blake Nelson.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's playing a character that he played in the very first Hulk movie where Mark Ruffalo wasn't Bruce Banner, it was the other guy.
Oh yeah.
And the one with Liv Tyler in it.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, that's another thing that kind of crops up throughout the film, is that Thaddeus Ross is trying to prove to his daughter that he's changed, and he's like he's got a new lease on life, and he's not a piece of shit or whatever.
Even though none of that is true.
What? I think it is. I think that's what that means. That I don't think former Thaddeus Ross would have given himself. I don't think he would have given up the presidency and then sent himself to the raft if he wasn't changed on some level. Which, by the way, lots of mentions of cherry blossom trees.
Yes,
because Washington D.C. is famously. Has a ton of cherry blossom trees in it. If you've ever been there, they're really pretty.
The political plot of all this is that following the assassination attempt, the treaty that Ross was trying to put together, where these four nations would share the adamantium, has kind of fallen apart.
Yeah,
and Ross is like, "Well, shit, France and India, can we give this another try?" And France and India are like,
I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know. What does Japan say?
What does Japan think? So Ross is like,
Japan's
well, shit, I gotta go to Japan and talk to them.
They go over to the Japan feed on their Skype and no one's there. And they're like, Japan?
Ross is like, hold that thought. I'm just gonna get in my plane and fly to Japan real quick.
Literally just flies to Japan.
Talks to the prime minister, is like, hey, can we make this work? And the prime minister's like, well, no.
Well, see, we have this thing here that
because we have evidence that the CIA paid to steal our adamantium. Yeah. So no.
Which was a thing that Mr. Brain, I can't remember his name, kind of put together. And,
Samuel Stearns?
Yeah, Samuel Stearns. Yeah. And I like how he's like, the CIA, we have proof the CIA did this. And Ross is like, yeah, that makes sense.
Well, fuck.
Yeah. We do shit like that sometimes. Sorry, I didn't know personally, but
so Sam and Torres and Widow Lady all drive off to some Navy SEAL friends of Sam's, and they're like, okay, first off, we need to make you all listen to this weird jazz tune to make sure none of you have been brainwashed.
None of them have.
Okay, good.
Congrats, you passed.
That's our first step. Second step, we found these weird pills that correspond somehow to President Ross. So can you give this to your best chemist buddy and have him figure out whatever the hell
Send it to the lab.
Yeah. Third thing, let me go talk to Giancarlo Esposito for a second and make him a deal that I have no legal authority to make.
Right.
For him to tell me about how Stearns fucking hates Ross and is trying to publicly discredit him, ruin his reputation and legacy. Okay, well, we got all that figured out. We need to go talk to the president and talk to him about
who
Stearns.
Is now on a warship in the Indian Ocean
with a carrier group, steaming directly for Celestial Island in the Indian Ocean, and to confront the other nations that are trying to make use of the adamantium here.
Yeah. And what unfolds here is exactly why you don't want the sitting president on a warship during a conflict.
Yes.
Because some brain control happens and the American pilots open fire on one of the other nations, and a whole conflict starts and they almost the warship, and I cannot stress this enough, that the president of the United States is targeted for missile strikes.
Yes.
And they almost succeed. And this entire time, Tim Blake Nelson is able to get in his ear.
Yeah. And be hey, this is making you mad, isn't it?
Psst, you getting mad yet?
You can get out there and crush them all and do all this on your own.
And he almost kind of turns a little bit. He has a moment.
He has a moment where he's like crushing pipes and like his calves get real muscly and. But Sam and Torres manage to diffuse the whole situation.
Everything. But however, Torres is pretty badly wounded.
Yes, he gets shot out of the sky and crashes into the ocean and has to get some medical attention.
But. Yay, President Ross has won the day. Mm-hmm. And so he doesn't, because he's like, oh, I'm not so pissed anymore.
Yeah.
That's great. What even happens after this?
So we get a sequence in the hospital where Sam is watching the operation on Torres and Bucky comes by. And says,
Bucky Barnes. Yeah.
Bucky's like, it's kind of rough out there. And Sam is like, man, I really should have taken that super soldier serum that Steve had.
Yeah.
And Bucky's like, you don't need that shit, man.
He's like, okay.
Well, look at you. You got the shield. You got the cool wings that do the energy thing when you poke people.
The Black Panther thing.
Yeah.
Okay, this is insane to me. If I were Sam, I'd be like, get me that motherfucking serum right now. Because he's just a dude in a suit and not even necessarily, I mean, it's got some cool gadgets, but it's not like the Iron Man suit. It's like he gets stabbed through that motherfucker at one point. Like it's not even, is it even bulletproof? Like the shield is, obviously.
Probably. I mean, to small enough bullets.
Yeah, it's just like, I would immediately take the super soldier serum and then be like, now try to shoot me, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Bucky
does have a nice little line at the end of this speech where he's like, Steve gave people something to believe in. You give them something to aspire to.
Yeah.
And there's a beat and Sam was like, your speechwriters wrote that, didn't you? He's like, yeah.
Yeah, it was market tested. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Anyway, I got to go to this campaign fundraiser dinner. Love you, buddy. Bye.
Yeah.
He walks out. Widow lady walks in carrying some coffee and she's like, that guy's pretty hot.
Yeah. That was because Sebastian Stan is a very handsome man.
He's very pretty.
And she was the female and gay demographic in the audience at that moment.
Yeah.
She said what we were all thinking.
Yeah. Sam is like, he's like 108 years old, right?
She's like, oh, I'd still fuck that.
I can work with that.
Oh.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, like a jackrabbit. Any fucking day. I like how horny she is suddenly out of nowhere. She's like, oh, I'm gonna fuck that old man.
So we go to the White House where Ross is like, all right, look, all the other nations are back on board. We're going to sign this fucking treaty and adamantium's going to be the next leap forward. Everything's going to be great. And Sam is in the hospital, the courtyard where Brain Guy shows up. And Brain Guy is like, yeah, Captain America, good news. I've come by to confess my plans because you can't do anything to stop them at this point. Mm-hmm. Ross is going to get very, very angry soon and going to start smashing shit. And if you go try to stop him, he's probably going to kill you. So, good luck with that. I'm going to get arrested now. Bye.
Yeah.
And Sam is like, well, fuck you too.
All this happens. He's like,
yeah,
wait.
So Ross is giving a press conference in the Rose Garden.
In the Rose Garden,
and all the
by the way, I just was reading a thing about how Donald Trump wants to pave over the Rose Garden to make a patio like on Mar-a-Lago.
He can eat shit.
I wish that were not real. I wish that was a thing. This is one of the crazy things that we live with now in American politics.
Anyway, so the reporters are asking Ross all these questions. He's getting angrier and angrier, and they all of a sudden someone on their phone on fucking Blue Sky says, "Hey, this green guy with a weird brain just confessed that you're a war criminal. So what do you think about that?"
And they pipe his words too. It's like that scene in Batman Returns where Oswald Cobblepot, who is running for mayor, is fingered in the same way by Batman.
Yeah.
He finds the most incriminating line and plays it through the speakers.
Mm-hmm. So the Secret Service is trying to hustle Ross away, and he hulks out and starts smashing.
Gets pretty pissed.
And Sam shows up
and the Secret Service turns on him immediately.
Yes, they're like, holy shit, that's a Hulk. I'm going to shoot him.
There's the president. But I better not say it again. The NSA is going to be like, excuse me.
I think I'm more the FBI.
Yeah.
But
or the Secret Service. I don't know.
Anyway, there's this big, long, protracted
Which, by the
fight
way,
scene.
if you're a part of the Secret Service and you're listening in because you've heard some keywords, let us know in the chat whether or not, if the president turned into a giant red Hulk, if you would immediately start shooting at him, or you would still consider him to be the president and would still try to protect him.
Yeah. So there's this big fight scene, and Sam eventually leads him away from the White House to where the cherry blossoms are, and he's like, "All right, look."
It's very poetic. It looks, the cherry blossoms are a nice touch. It's a nice background for the battle and everything.
And Sam's like, "Okay, look, can you chill the fuck out? Like, you see these nice fucking cherry blossoms where you wanted to bring your daughter so you could, reconcile or some shit? Like, can you just calm the fuck down so you can do that someday?" And Ross is like, "Oh, smash!"
Yeah.
And Sam eventually.
I think he's, by the way, I noticed he's quite a bit weaker than Bruce Banner, right? Because he gets stabbed a few times, and I don't think Hulk can get stabbed.
Yeah, Ross is not as strong as the original recipe.
Yeah, Hulk. Because he gets some pretty good hits on him and shit, and then Hulk beats Red Hulk beats the shit out of Sam.
Yeah.
Again. He's thinking
I should have taken that fucking super soldier suit.
Yeah.
But Sam eventually gets charges up one of his wings and pokes Hulk with it, and he explodes. And Sam, the cavalry's come for Sam. He's like, "Please tell me that motherfucker's knocked out." And Hulk stands back up and he's like, "Motherfucker." Yeah. So he's like, "Well, okay, seriously this time. Can we all just calm the fuck down? I understand you're angry and you've done some bad things, but you're not making things any better here.
Yeah.
Just chill out for a second and let's figure this out."
Also, what would Liv Tyler think?
And Harrison Ford is like, you make an interesting point.
Yeah.
Let me de-Hulk. They don't show the de-hulking scene. They just show his shadow getting smaller.
That was a part of the effects they couldn't afford. So they kind of yada yada it a little bit.
And Sam was like, "All right, isn't this better?" And then we cut through some couple scenes where he's
more news position. I think probably
there's some news position. Yeah. There's Sam going to the hospital. Well, getting Isaiah Bradley out of prison. Going to the hospital where he sees Isaiah Bradley going the other way. And Isaiah Bradley's like, "Actually, I got a date with Widowface. We're gonna go sit courtside before I go back to Baltimore." So that's pretty cool.
Wait. Okay, so her first thing was to try to fuck Bucky, a 110-year-old man.
Mm-hmm.
And then she meets Isaiah, who is also over 100, right?
I wouldn't... Maybe?
Pretty close. So and then she's
Korea... He'd be in his 90s, I think.
Yeah, and she's like, you want to go see a game?
I mean... She did also see him try to carry out an unalive attempt on the president. So
maybe
she's there's some life in that body.
You're right. He's got some hot blood.
Yeah. So Sam,
guys, is the Black Widow character just thirsty for old dudes?
Maybe.
I love that about. You know what? I'm happy
good for her.
Yeah, good for her.
So Sam goes and visits Torres, and Torres is like, you're really good at being this whole Captain America thing. I just really wanted to be like you. Also, can you talk to your homies in Wakanda and maybe get us some new wings? Because both of us fucked up our suits.
Yeah, both of our suits are destroyed. Yeah. Also, and let's be honest, we need some super soldier serum, please.
Yeah. Sam visits Ross in prison on the raft, and for 90 seconds says, "Yes, it's very impressive the way you resigned and
the way you did a bad thing, broke the law, resigned out of disgrace because you couldn't handle the shame of having broken the law and put yourself in jail."
Mm-hmm.
And everyone turns their head to the camera straight at Donald Trump.
But hey, on the upside, we signed that adamantium treaty, so that's pretty cool.
And they named it after him.
Yeah. Also, here's your daughter. She wants to talk to you. I'm going to go down the hall after this credits sequence and talk to Brain Guy, who's going to say some very, very vaguely threatening things about the multiverse.
So Sam is like, "Look, good news, we got Liv Tyler. Mm-hmm. Bad news, we don't have her for very long because she's very expensive.
Yes.
Have fun with your daughter."
So we got
Liv Tyler
one
shows
phone
up.
Conversation.
Yeah.
And then
one line
20 seconds on screen.
Yeah. And then he does have kind of a weird, the post-credit scene is a little goofy because he, in his probabilities, which he keeps talking about, he I guess, identified a threat or something.
Yeah. He's basically like, "Look, the multiverse exists because of Loki. Thanks, Loki. And all those other Earths also have super people.
Yeah.
And eventually there's going to be a war between them and you.
A secret war, perhaps.
Perhaps. So, good luck with all that.
Yep.
End of movie. Bye.
Also, do you know when lunch is?
Because the food in here sucks, but at least it's food.
Yeah. Jimmy. Hey, what's up, Jimmy?
Hey,
Jimmy says Trump, the paving dumpster fire, renaming the Gulf a fragile masculinity and destroying the Rose Garden now. Is he identifying the First Lady now? Is he identifying as the First Lady now that Elon's in the house? Did you see
yeah, there was a story about how Elon's kid was telling Trump, shut the fuck up. You're not actually the president.
It's not just, I mean, they have a recording of it. And I don't think that's exactly what he says, but he does.
It's more or less.
He does tell him to like, shut up. Mm-hmm. And what's really funny is that Trump is sitting at the Resolute desk and you can tell does not know how to behave around children. Mm-hmm. Because he's never touched his own children, right? Yeah. Like Barack Obama in the Oval Office, a kid comes in, he knows exactly, because he's a dad. Yeah. He knows exactly, every baby that man has ever seen, he picks them up. And you can tell that Donald Trump is like, oh God, it's kids. And keeps looking at Elon like, you better shut that motherfucker up. Mm-hmm. Oh, the timeline we're in is so weird. Yeah. So I don't know. We're on a scale from 1 to 10. Sam Wilson wings. How many Sam Wilson wings do you give it?
I'd give this a solid 6.
I would give it a 6 as well. Yeah, it was fine. I don't feel like I was cheated out of the money to go.
I mean, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I probably won't watch it again anytime soon, but it was fine.
Not terribly exciting, not terribly bad. Like I said, I think on the way home, there are MCU movies that I disliked more than this one. Mm-hmm. And, I think that's the problem with the MCU is it's another mid movie. Yeah. And it's like, can we please have another good one soon?
This is going to sound like I'm damning with faint praise, but one of the best things about this movie is that it is not quite 2 hours long.
Yeah, no,
it goes along really quickly.
Yeah, and you know what? I found myself appreciating that because, Endgame is
like 3 hours long.
It's over 2.5 hours, and however, it is Endgame.
Yeah, they had to tie up all the plot threads. They needed to give all these characters their end of story rewards or whatever.
And all their hero moments and everything, right? And so,
they had a lot of shit to put in that movie.
I'll sit through over 2.5 hours of Endgame. Mm-hmm. I fucking love that movie. Yeah. And Infinity War was pretty long too. Mm-hmm. Eternals was super fucking long and did not need to be. And it's like, I get they want people to get a bang for their buck in the theaters, mm-hmm. right? But after 2 hours, and we've been friends for so long, we've seen so many movies together. You've probably have noticed this about me. After 2 hours, I just start to fidget. Yeah. I cannot sit still because I'm tired of sitting there. I mean, I sit down for this podcast and I fidget around, and it's very hard for me to sit there and just I'm like Elon's kid. Just
shut the fuck up
now.
You aren't Endgame.
Yeah. Good enough job. Whatever. Let's move on.
So what are we talking about?
Severance. Season 2, episode. Episode 5, which is called Trojan's Horse.
If you're looking at the thumbnail for this podcast and wondering why the fuck is there a head made out of a watermelon?
Well, Severance is why. That's
because
why.
Severance.
Yeah, Severance is the reason why. So I want to jump right into this. Spoilers. If you've not seen it, go watch it. By the way, and I can't say this enough, I know a lot of people here are here for the Star Wars and stuff, and I totally get that. But
expand your horizons, man.
I have an interest in good stories, right? And I think that anything that I gush about this much is worth anyone's time. Regardless of what your specific interests are, you will like Severance. It's just one of those shows. Unless you're just a really boring person who's I don't like mysteries, I don't like good character development, I don't like fucking amazing acting performances.
Unless you're one of those people who can't watch a TV show without also swiping at something on your phone.
Oh, you got to pay attention to Severance.
Yes.
Yeah, you got to watch it. Yeah. So this episode opens. So like, remember the last episode was the Ortbo,
yep.
the outside
retreat and team building occurrence.
Yeah. That ended disastrously for everyone, pretty much, except for Helly R, who finally is back in the picture. Yeah.
Who woke back up.
So we open on there's a dude pushing a cart. We don't see his name.
It's very important. We also never see his face.
Yeah.
It's very carefully obscured.
Yeah, he's in the credits, he's referred to as Doctor.
Okay.
So I think he's probably a dentist. And he's whistling a cool little tune, which is the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald by Gordon Lightfoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Which, by the way, was the largest ship to sink in the Great Lakes.
Okay.
Which, like, people have been paying attention to this are like, this takes place in Michigan or like northern Wisconsin or something, for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is one of those things. So he shows up to O&D, where old frizzy hair lady and I guess her new like Bert or whatever, are there to help them, and they open a thing. So they go into a room that kind of looks like a morgue at first, and it's not. They open one of the storage doors, and there's this array of dental tools that he takes and puts on the cart. And he's like, "Thanks, bye," and leaves. And we never see who he is, but he goes down to the secret elevator and gets in the elevator. It closes. There's a ding, just like every time all the characters get in the elevator and they get severed. That happens again. Did you notice that? That ding happens again. So is this man severed twice?
I don't know.
Because it kind of seemed to me a little bit like he is. But yeah, that's all we get. They're like, you know what? We're going to give him a little mystery at the beginning. We're never going to explain it. We'll come back. We'll circle back later. And if this were lost, they'd be like, we'll circle back unless we think they've forgotten about it.
Circle back in like 5 seasons.
Yeah. Or we want it all. We just want this to end. God, please.
Yes.
So Audi Mark is on a lot of medication now, because you might remember the episode before the last episode, he went through with his reintegration procedure. So he seems to be, first of all, following the post-op instructions that PD ignored and that killed him. And he has to drink this weird shit that to me looks kind of like breast milk.
I don't know what's up with it. It looks really fucking gross. But.
I have a godson who I was very involved with, specifically when they were an infant, and my nephew as well, who's very young. I've seen a fair amount of breast milk. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying it's a fact about me that maybe a lot of people don't know. And it looks a little bit like breast milk to me.
Okay.
So we now know that the reintegration process
is a process, not like a one-time thing.
Right. Like it didn't take immediately. And also I like how Dr. Rigotti's just like Mark's new roommate now, where she's like, can you go get some eggnog for me and like go shopping for me? Because I think she doesn't want people to see her going in and out of this house a whole bunch.
Mark also has a conversation with his sister through all this.
On the phone, right? Yeah. Because she doesn't know about the reintegration.
And she asks like, "How was the weekend?" He's like, "Okay, I guess. I wasn't there."
Right. Well, he said because they were on the outdoor. Yeah. He does mention that they told him that he fell off a rope into water or something, and so he still doesn't know. They still haven't answered whether or not what we saw was an actual place or if it was like a holodeck thing.
I'm pretty sure it was real.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because of this next sequence where Helly R gets off the elevator and is like, "Holy shit, what the fuck?"
Well, no, the next next scene. Right. So Helena has a meeting with Natalie, the creepy board lady, and Drummond, who gets weirder every episode he's in.
I am confused as to what his role is at Lumen.
Or what now I'm even confused about what his relation is to Helena as well. They make this weird comment where they're like, "Oh, we talked to the Lumen doctors and your tempers will rebalance soon." And it's like, oh, right, because it's a cult and it's a Scientology, like, oh, we're going to do a reading and shit. Turns out Mark is doing well on Cold Harbor.
Whatever the fuck that is.
Yeah, we don't know, but he's closer to 100% than he was yesterday, which good for him. We find out that Helly is being sent back to the severed floor, not Helena, Helly. And that's to keep Mark calm to do whatever.
To keep Mark going, basically.
Drummond refers to Helena's father as father as well.
Yeah, because Helena says, well, is this what father thinks we should do? And Drummond says,
father encouraged it.
Yes.
Yeah. So are they related? And if so, why is his last name Drummond, or is that just a name they made up?
I don't know.
Yeah. He also says the work is mysterious and important, which is a thing they said in the first season. It's what Mark says to Helly when she's like, this is all bullshit. And he's like, no, it's mysterious and important. And it's just so weird that they've all like guzzled the Kool-Aid so fucking hard. And it's going to be really funny if they're actually on to something. And it isn't just weird cult stuff that doesn't mean anything at all. So, all right, Helly and real Helly, not fake, not Helena. Real Helly finally returns to the severed floor, and she gets a proper ding when she goes down and everything. And Miss Huang is just sitting there with her weird 13-year-old smile in front of that weird fucking painting and shit. And she's like, hi. And she's like, and Helly's like, who the fuck are you? Why are you a literal child? And she's like, come with me. We're going to go meet with Milchick or whatever. And so the entire MDR team meets with Milchick, and Milchick confirms that Irving is gone. Dylan is not taking this well.
He's like, this is complete and utter bullshit.
I think he says, I don't give 3 dry fucks about what Audi, because he's like, oh, Audi Irving isn't, like, he's still out there, he's going on a cruise or something. And Dylan's like, fuck you, I don't care. And is this the scene where Milchick warns him about having some of his perks taken away, or is it
that's later?
Scene? Yeah. So he makes up this whole story about why Helena was down on the severed floor instead of Helly.
Talking about this Swedish king who would disguise himself and
as a peasant.
And walk among the common people to know what their thoughts were. And
he's like, Kier did this, and then all the CEOs of Lumen did this. And that's what Helly was doing. She was, trying to, be with the peasants and see how y'all were doing and shit. And does anyone buy it?
No.
No one buys it. So
I still don't know what Helena's motivation for all this would be.
I think she was a virgin, Chris. I think she just wanted to get fucked.
I mean, there are easier ways to do it if you're the rich daughter of a CEO.
But if you're the rich daughter of a cult CEO, it might not actually be that easy. And I'm thinking from a practical perspective. If I look at that security footage and like I see Mark, who like clearly wants me, you're like, that's the easiest way to do it. Again, no work required.
I mean, I guess.
Go down, get fucked. That fucking easy. I think it must have had to do with some kind of mind game to get Mark to work more on his file.
Maybe.
Because everything they do is to do that, right? So Milchick brings them back to MDR, which doesn't have 4 seats anymore. There's
3.
It's a tri-station.
Yep.
They've photoshopped Irving out of all the team photos,
which is the most fucked up part of all.
It's also really petty.
Yeah,
it's so petty. So Dylan demands a funeral for Irving, and Mark reluctantly agrees because Milchick's like, well, what is
So Dylan's like, we gotta have a funeral. Helly's like, yes, absolutely. Milchick is like, is this the unanimous decision of MDR? And Mark, who's like looking at his computer, is like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah. Is really lukewarm about it. Immediately kind of miffs Dylan because Dylan kind of senses his like apathy about it.
Yeah.
And Helly, who is just like, what the fuck is happening? Like, I literally, guys, we went on the mission. I found out I was an Egan. The next thing I remember,
Irving is drowning me
in a lake. And then I just then I'm here.
Yeah.
What the fuck is happening? By the way, Mark doesn't seem to be feeling well. He's got some cold
He's
/
coughing,
flu symptoms. Yeah. Mark goes to the bathroom and Helly just comes in, which, by the way, do they have co-ed bathrooms?
Maybe.
Yeah. So she just walks in and it's clear that Mark doesn't know if he can trust Helly. Right. And it also is clear that Mark finding out that it wasn't Helly the whole time really fucked with him.
Yeah.
It really messed with his brain. And she's like, you don't tell me about what happened when you're out on the outside. He's like, no, I don't want to. And she's like, well, do you want to hear about my thing? And he's like, no, not really. Goodbye. And turns around and walks away. He's like, none of it fucking matters. It's all stupid. Eventually one day the heat death of the universe will occur. Everyone will cease to exist. And then I'm a nihilist now. Fuck off, Helly. And he goes back to work. Which, by the way, you know that they've got a camera in that bathroom.
Yes.
And you know that Milchick's like, oh, thank God. Go back to work, please. So Milchick calls up Miss Huang and says,
we need to put together a bereavement package for MDR.
And you break out the weird mugs with everyone's faces on, or with Irving's face, which, by the way, apparently they have bereavement packages for all of the MDR workers, even Helly, who, by the way, is Helena, daughter of the CEO of the company.
Yes.
And they bust out 3 Irving mugs, and they fire up the dot matrix printer, and they print a banner and shit. Miss Huang says a very strange sentence. She says, "May I say a question?"
Yes.
And Milchick is like, "You fucking kids. That's not how you say it."
Fine.
And she pretty much is like if we have a funeral, it's just going to make them feel like people. And first of all, you're like, damn,
that's incredibly fucked up.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
Fucking kids these days, man. Milchick's like, that's not a fucking question. And she's like, oh, okay, here's a question. Isn't your performance review today? And he's like, I hate children. I hate children so much. Get the fuck out of my face. So they have a little funeral in the break room. They list Irving's birth and death dates as quarter in whatever fiscal quarters.
One thing I noticed is his death date is listed as quarter 882.
Yeah.
Which, if we're assuming 4 quarters in a year, would put Lumen's founding somewhere in 1805. If we're assuming that current year is 2025.
That kind of matches up with
it matches up with what we know of Kier. It maybe puts him a little bit earlier than we were thinking.
Yeah.
But
it's also, wouldn't put it past Lumen for them to have just made up some dates to fuck with them or something. Or maybe the dates are important and mysterious too. So Dylan gives a eulogy, and it's actually, it's kind of heartbreaking because Dylan is really obviously consumed with regret over not believing Irving and not being there for him. So there's an Irving melon, which they do for retirement parties, but they pull it out for this too, and it's very off-putting and very strange. Miss Huang fucking shows up.
She's got her theremin out. She rolls up her sleeves. She's ready to go.
She goes to play the theremin, and Milchick's like, for fuck's sake, no more theremin. I want to see you out in the hall.
And Miss Huang is falling down the hall. Dude, I practiced so hard for this. Can't you just let me play one piece?
I was going to do box fucking Jello Concerto number 1, the entire thing on theremin. Do you know how hard that is? He's like, no more theremin. You're grounded. So while he's gone, Mark snaps at Helly and is like, look, you're an idiot if you don't think that Lumen is hearing everything we say. Nothing matters. There's no point in anything. I would like to get back to work and stop thinking about shit like this. And Helly's like, oh, you are way different than I remember. And he's like, well, we fucked. He didn't really say, he didn't tell her we fucked, but he's like, I don't know what to think. So Dylan puts together the hang in there clue.
Yeah. He's in the break room.
Turns out I was right about this poster thing.
Looking at this poster that says hang in there. Yeah. He remembers that Irving's last words were hang in there.
Yep.
And he's like, wait a minute. So he reaches around behind the poster and pulls out this little note card that Irving had hid there with a long list of directions.
Yep.
He flips it over, and it's a drawing of the dark hallway with the elevator at the end of it.
Yeah, it's directions that he got presumably from Bert's friend in O&D.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that Irving knew immediately that he couldn't just trust the whole team with this information, that he had to hide it, and that he knew that he could only trust Dylan with it. And I think it's kind of touching that Irving has all this faith in him. I like their little bromance a whole bunch. And I think that this is what's going to end up breaking through, because you know that like Milchick kind of has a stranglehold on him with his like, you can see your Audi's wife thing. Yeah. I bet this is what breaks through it. Is his regret for what happened to Irving and the fact that he left him like instructions. That's going to be his like, oh, the perks don't matter. Like on with the mission, you know? So there is a bizarre conversation between Natalie and Milchick about their blackface paintings.
Yes. So Milchick is coming up to his performance review, and Natalie's like, "Are you ready for your review?" And Milchick is like, "First off, can we talk about those paintings? Because like I am flattered and honored to have received them, but I'm wondering,
but also
when you received those paintings and they changed Kier to look kind of like you, did you not think that was kind of off-putting and weird?"
You know what I did not put together about this? So they had this scene in the previous episode where she's like, oh, they gave me the same gift. I had kind of just forgotten, or I wasn't thinking that like Natalie's a person of color.
Yeah.
So in my mind, it's like, oh, they changed Kier to a girl.
I mean, she is very, very light skinned.
Yeah.
Yes.
But at the same time, they probably not. They probably just changed him to be black for her, right?
Maybe, yeah.
So it probably isn't like female Kier, right? But it's probably just black Kier, just like Milchick got.
And Natalie's like, let's go to your performance review.
She's stoic and creepy, just like she always is. And I'm pretty sure, I wonder if there's some kind of like where the board is constantly like wired into her somehow. Because she never lets that face drop. There have been a couple of times where it looks like it might for a second, and then she just puts it right back on. She seems very scared about something, to me at least. So Milchick has his performance review, and hold on. So this is the gist of his problems. He uses big words. He puts his paper clips the wrong direction, and he almost killed the CEO's daughter. They're like, okay, we're going to go from bad to worse. Big words, paper clips, kill the boss's daughter.
I love when Drummond is starting this. He's like, I'm going to begin your performance review. This will last between 2 and 6 hours, depending on how many times you have to beg forgiveness.
Yeah.
If it goes longer than 4 hours, there will be a catered lunch. And Milchick is like, well, there's no way it's going to go more than 4 hours, right? Drummond's like, here's the lunch menu.
Slides the lunch menu.
Anyway,
some really good writing. Look, this is the show not tell thing in writing.
Yes,
where he could have been like, oh, Milchick could have been like, oh, I don't expect it to take this long. Drummond could have been like, well, actually, we are going to be here for quite a while. Instead,
he just gives the lunch menu.
Yeah. This is how you write shit. Like this is like good writing. So, Mark's completion of Cold Harbor will be remembered as the most important work on planet Earth, which is something a Scientologist would say. Like that's the scale they like their delusion is on.
Yes. Just in case you forgot that Lumen is a cult.
Yeah.
It is a cult.
Yes. And so they're like, you almost killed the boss's daughter. That's bad. They give him a custom printed performance review, and it has illustrations. Like, did you see that? Like,
I actually paused on the first one. It's like, below is a word cloud of Seth Milchick's
big words. Yeah.
These are the ones that shouldn't be used.
And on the I think next to the Johnny the Boss's daughter thing, there's like a stick figure holding another stick figure like underwater or something. Like someone went through within a couple of days and made this beautiful like document and everything with like really nice paper and shit. It is the funniest shit in the world. Like this company is so weird. So Mark works out. Mark
is
he's on his file,
numbers and doing things, and
stuff starts glitching.
Yep,
weird shit starts happening.
He's like, you know what? I'm just gonna go.
Yeah, I think I think I'm going to go home now.
Yeah.
So things here are getting a little weird. So he steps on the elevator and Milchick, first of all, Milchick asks if he can come in, which is like, you fucking weirdo.
And then Milchick gets right up in his face and is like, you're leaving 6 minutes early.
Yeah. And Mark's like, yeah. And then he's like, and by the way, does Helly know that you fucked Helena? And he's like, well, you're taking that big words thing to heart.
Yeah.
Because you know that old Milchick would have been like, does Helly know that you had a carnal copulation with
fornicacious relations?
Fornicacious. That's a really good band name.
Fornicacious relations?
Yes.
Okay.
I like that.
Keep it in mind.
So Mark's like, I don't want to talk about this with you. So Rickon
is re-editing his book for the innies, and his wife is like, this is complete bullshit. Like,
and he's got this whole facade. He's like, oh, it's going to be a Trojan's horse, which, by the way, that's not how we say that phrase. We're like, we're going to get it in, and it's going to cause a revolution. When you know that he's just excited that Natalie showed interest.
Yeah.
And that he's
going to have some money.
Yeah, and he gets that adoration, right? And his wife, you can tell she's like, the second she leaves that room, she's like Googling divorce lawyers. She's like, what the actual fuck? So Irving goes to the phone booth again and makes a call and tells someone on the other end, I think they knew what my innie was doing and fired me. Which, by the way, did inning Irving know what he was up to?
I don't know.
Because the way he says this, I mean, so I don't think that he's reintegrated because he doesn't necessarily recognize Bert. Like, he doesn't act like any Irving would act when he sees Bert. But it makes me wonder if they're using some other method to exchange information between innies and outies, because he's got the whole art thing where he like draws the shit and everything. So it's just a reminder, and we knew this from season 1, that Irving is working with someone on the outside to attack Lumen. And we don't know who it is. It could be Rigatti, I guess, or it could be someone else. I'm not really sure. But he looks over and he sees somebody sitting in a car
watching him, and he fucking hangs up the phone, marches on over. Hey, the fuck do you want? And it's Bert.
Oh my God, is that Christopher Walken? And he rolls down the window and is like, yes.
So he's like, okay, look, it was really weird the way you fucking showed up at my house one night and started screaming my name. It really upset me and my partner.
Do you want to have a threesome?
Essentially, yeah. He's like, we're cooking a ham tomorrow night. You want to come over and we can talk about it?
Yeah, the three of us. Look, I'm not saying anything will happen,
but we're going to have some really good red wine.
Yeah.
So,
And things go where they go.
Yeah.
We're very open.
And Bert's like, you know what? I'm in.
Hell yeah, let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love ham.
Yeah. And that's the end of the episode, I think, right?
No, there's Mark. So Mark goes down and talks with what's her name. And
right. Oh, yeah. Which, by the way, we find out that Mark puts what he thinks are his wife's remains in the basement in a box. Now we know now that they're not actually...
in the box that presumably they were sent to him in?
Yeah. Which it's like, bro, you just threw that shit in the basement.
I mean, I don't think he's on any level prepared to face it.
Yeah.
Is the problem.
And now he doesn't have to.
Yeah.
So now he's like, I don't even know what the fuck that is.
Yeah. The question is, who the fuck's remains are those? And Doctor or whatever her name is like, yeah, Lumen knows people at the morgue.
Yeah, they've got a guy. Rando. They've got the morgue guy. So
Mark goes back up
as it ends up, it's Drummond. Yeah. He does both jobs.
So Mark is going back upstairs and he hears Miss Casey's voice saying some shit about his Audi. He's like, that's really fucking weird. And like he's goes upstairs and like pokes his head out the basement door, and he's on the severed floor. And he's like, that's even more fucking weird. And then like he gets out there and snaps back.
How did I forget that? Yeah. He turns around, he sees Miss Casey. And then he's in. I think it's the first time that Audi Mark has seen his wife since she died. And Adam Scott's performance in this scene is so heartbreaking because you can tell how unprepared he was to face her, and the emotional fucking train wreck that hits him. And it's within 2 seconds, 2 or 3 seconds, and it's all with his face. He doesn't even say anything. And you can feel just this wide range of emotions about it and everything. And that's how the episode ends. Fucking masterful show. The speed run, 1 minute apiece, Invincible and Spider-Man.
Okay, so Invincible has these...
Seth Rogen has come back.
Yes, Seth Rogen.
As Alan the alien. Yeah.
Alan and Nolan fucking break out of prison, and Nolan tells him, by the way, there's like 50 full-blood Viltrumites left in the galaxy, so we might be able to win this after all.
Yeah.
Mark is trying to go on a date with Eve, but gets time kidnapped.
Yep.
And winds up
fighting King Immortal.
Yes.
In the future.
Where Immortal was put in charge of Earth and went mad with power and was begging Mark to kill him. So Mark killed him and felt really bad about it. And then Mark and Eve flew around the world a couple times and then had sex.
Yeah. And they do the same thing where the narrator.
Yeah.
Is that Jeffrey Combs that does the narration?
It might be.
I'm going to look that up during our Battlefront stream. And then Spider-Man.
Lonnie is super involved in this gang, and he probably shouldn't be.
We're starting to see the real side of Norman Osborn.
Yes, because he is very obsessed with tracking down Otto Octavius and preventing him from doing his shit.
And control and pulling some threads and controlling some shit.
Scorpion gets his tech and his scorpion tail and actually beats the shit out of Spider-Man and
loses his first fight. Really, I think probably since
Peter is really really bothered by that. He also has a run in with Daredevil.
Oh, that opens like that first episode. Yeah, it's really good. He gets by the way, he loses that fight too.
Oh yeah. Nico and Harry Osborn are friends now, and they're probably gonna fuck soon.
I'm not sure that this version of Harry's into girls.
It feels like they're into each other.
I think that they finally just kind of like the ice finally broke, and they found some things they're both into.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and I mean if they do, that's great. Nico's real pissed at Peter, and it's kind of a problem. But I think by the end she finds out because he gets really hurt by Scorpion, and she I think comes around.
I don't think so.
Oh, is she still pissed at him?
I think she's still mad at him.
Nico, give it up for fuck's sake. He's just a teenager. He doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. Anyway, there's Spider-Man. We are going to be back here in a few minutes. We're going to play some Battlefront. It'll be a blast. We hope to see you there. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for the comments, and we'll see you guys later.
Bye.